All right, good evening, everybody. Monday evening. Hope everyone is well. Wanted to jump on. I wanted to do a little bit more news on the channel. So I wanted to talk about the windfall tax because that's obviously something that's very topical right now and something that is still being, I guess, debated in the political space with a little bit of resistance. But I wanted to talk about this evening because I saw an article which I wanted to share, and I would love to get your thoughts on this because I think the more we're able to talk about this kind of stuff and we're able to have open conversations about them and try and, I guess, understand what the other side are saying, it may either reinforce our opinions as they currently sit, or maybe get us to question our opinions as well. And so it's very, very topical right now with the cost of living crisis. And yeah, so I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to go through a couple of articles with you. And I'd love to know what you guys think about this because the oil and gas industry are advocating for no windfall tax. And obviously, Rishi and the Conservatives have been a little bit reticent about committing to, well, they were at least very, very reticent about levying a windfall tax on energy and oil and gas companies, essentially. They're now putting it on the table because they're succumbing to the pressure, to the political pressure. And obviously now oil and gas are now pushing back. And the reasons that they're given to push back are just, for me, I don't know. I really, really don't know. It's astonishing, if I'm completely honest. But let me know what you think as we go through this this evening. I'd love to hear your thoughts and stuff. Right. So let me just share this first article. I will go through something else with you a bit later on and stuff, which will just be a message from the sponsors on the channel, where if you enter, you could be in with the chance of winning £20,000. But we get into the article first and foremost. So the first one I want to share with you is this one right here. Now, let me just get rid of that for the time being. This is on BBC News right now, by the way, guys. So obviously, oil and gas industry pushes back over windfall tax because I think now in the political space, Rishi is not discounting this. Is being said that it is firmly on the agenda. They're not willing to rule this out. Now, oil and gas producers have hit back at calls for windfall tax on their profits, saying they're already paying more tax as a result of price rises. Okay, we'll get into some of those numbers shortly in a moment. Offshore Energies UK, which represents a sector, said are on course to pay 7.8 billion in UK tax this year. Now, 7.8 billion obviously is a lot of money. This is up 3.1 billion from last year. So they're set to make quite a bit in terms of a tax payment this year. However, if you start looking at the headlines and the numbers, I don't think it's not a surprise to anybody to know that these oil and gas companies are reporting huge profits just in the first quarter of this year. And BP, so far this year, let me just share this one with you as well. Share this tab. This is BP, by the way. So BP's profits for the first 3 months of this year have more than doubled after oil and gas prices soared. And the energy giant reported an underlying profit of 6.2 billion compared to 2.6 billion the same period last year, ahead of expectations. Now, I was reading last week that some of these energy companies are in profit by about 32, 35 million pounds a day at the moment. This is how you get to figures of 6.2 billion. Let's go and have a look at Shell. So this is Shell, and Shell is crazy the amount of profits Shell have actually made here. So Shell made 9.13 billion in the first 3 months of the year, nearly triple its 3.2 billion profits it announced in the same period last year. So there is no arguing that these companies are doing extremely well because of the energy price increases. And I think this is where you're likely to fall into a little bit of a social unrest, because when these numbers are, publicized and they're being made public, it would be very, very easy for people to feel as though they're being taken advantage of and to feel aggrieved because these profits are absolutely ridiculous. Now, windfall tax, we have been in this era of windfall tax before. Gordon Brown in 1997 imposed windfall tax on sectors because it was required at the time. These guys are fighting back massively against it. But I do want to get to the reason that they're basically the reason that they're given for no windfall tax. Okay, and this may make some of you actually laugh, and my head automatically goes to. We'll get to that in a minute. Just have a look at this, right? So share this tab right here. So, companies are also countering the threat of a windfall tax by pointing to their plans to spend on further developments for oil and gas if they're allowed to, and some are switching their emphasis to renewable energy. One of the two British-based oil majors, BP, is pledging 18 billion in UK investment this decade, and Shell has between 20 billion and 25 billion to spend on UK energy production and systems such as vehicle charging networks. Now, what ascended you can actually see that. Let me just bring up that article so I can just show you right here. All right, so these were the two paragraphs that I've actually just read out right there. Now, interestingly, and this is the thing for me, right? If you as a business are saying that, we don't want these windfall taxes because we're going to be investing into renewable energy, charging networks, so on and so forth, immediately my mind goes to the argument of, well, if you didn't do that, if you don't invest, the world is moving towards renewable energy sources. The world is moving towards away from fossil fuels. So if you don't invest, then effectively you're affecting your future business anyway. Is this a big enough bargaining chip? I mean, I know that politicians have to kind of skirt a line, right? And try to, I guess, appease the oil companies and obviously make the general public easy. But this for me is so much of a flimsy argument as to why they shouldn't be laden with a windfall tax. Now, it does say in this article, and this was an interesting one for me, and I'll just share this again with you. It says the Independent Office of Budget Responsibility has calculated that the tax UK fossil fuel energy producers are expected to pay this year to be nearly 20 times the 400 million paid in 2020. So when you 20 times 400 million, that's going to be around about £8 billion roughly that they're going to pay in tax. Now, that ties in with the 7.8 that we see right there. Now, many people, and I guess I can see their argument saying, look, we're going to be paying about £8 billion in tax this year. Don't laden us with additional taxes via a windfall that is going to impact future investment. And this is interesting because if you followed Rishi Sunak last week, he went to the CBI and he basically said that, in exchange for businesses investing more, that what he would essentially do is he would offer a tax cut in order to drive, I guess, some more economic growth. And in the video tomorrow, I'm going to be talking a little bit about stagflation. If you haven't checked out the podcast already for this week, I speak a little bit about stagflation there. And, the simple fact is when you have companies investing into research, into new product streams, that kind of stuff, right? In this particular case here, renewable energies, the argument is that it is going to create jobs, right? And when you think about creating jobs, what that basically means is that you have people in specialists with specialist skills getting paid good money. That increases the tax take, disposable income then gets spent in the economy. You have a growing economy. And I guess if I had to put my objective head on, this is what the politicians are trying to balance. But that still doesn't negate the fact for me that you cannot, as a business, at least in my head, say, well, don't laden us with tax because we are going to be investing. If you don't invest, you're going to damage the future value of your business because we know where the world is actually moving towards. And in all of these areas that you're saying you're going to invest, they are going to be future revenue streams for you anyway. Now, it's interesting because when you look around other articles about this topic, you will also find that, and I actually put this up as well. There was an article that talked about how energy prices, how the windfall tax would actually work. And there's an interesting piece in this article, which I'm gonna find and I'll show you in a moment, which basically talks about how sometimes these energy companies actually enjoy more tax relief than they actually pay to the UK government. And there are a couple of links in here, and I will provide the links in the chat after this live is over. It'll be interesting for you guys to actually go and see it. But I will share with you the amount of tax BP got back in 2020 from the UK government. And bearing in mind, these are things that happen across the globe. So when you look at this report, which is, I think, about 28 pages long, they list all of the companies that they actually get money back from, tax relief back from their governments globally. And the UK number is really, really interesting. So let me just share this screen with you right here, and then I'll show you the numbers they actually get back. So this column here just basically talks about the level of tax that they essentially pay typically, but how oftentimes when they go through processes where they're decommissioning drilling platforms, so on and so forth, that gets offset and they get tax relief as a result of it. And I think this is the one this is the paragraph right here that really sets off and puts context to this. So it says here in the previous one, the National Audit Office points out that in some years the government and taxpayers paid more to them in tax relief than they paid in taxes. This is because they spent enough money on things like decommissioning North Sea oil platforms to cancel out profit they were making in the UK. Now, this is the report that I was talking about. I'm just going to bring that up and you can actually see. So again, this is about 28 pages long, this little document right here. The UK is on page 26. Now, bearing in mind, this is in 2020. This is how much they actually got back from the UK government. £49.4 million in tax relief. Now, I don't know how much the proposed windfall tax will be, obviously. But if they're getting tax relief from the government and people are really struggling with the cost of living because people are forced to increase their direct debits, and some are reporting increasing their direct debits more than the minimum actually required. So these companies are accumulating a lot of additional cash in the account for cash flow. Then you have to start asking the question, well, why isn't a windfall tax fair in this context? If you have companies that are tripling their profits in the first 3 months of this year, let alone what's going to happen for the remaining quarters of this year, how can we not justify a windfall tax? I honestly, I really don't know how this would be something that I think people would find palatable in any way, shape, or form. I really, really don't. And it will be interesting to see what happens with Rishi and what decisions they actually come to. I know that Rishi has kind of put off making any moves until we know what the energy price increases are going to be later on in the year, in around about October or so, despite the calls for him to call an emergency budget. So don't know what he's thinking. But I think for more people who are seeing these kind of numbers and reading this kind of stuff, there is likely going to be a little bit of unease in people knowing that they're paying a lot of money for their gas and the electric. I mean, my gas and electric has gone up double on a monthly basis. Never paid this much. Now, more mature viewers of the channel who have been around in the 70s will remember that in the 70s there was this exact same situation where there was a lot of inflation due to energy prices increasing, and this is no news. This is nothing new to them. It's new to a lot of people right now. And I guess the danger that we're going to have here, and again, listen to the podcast for Monday, is that if we're in a period of stagflation, what that essentially means is high inflation, low economic growth. How do you get out of that? Interest rates alone aren't going to be an adequate lever to push to be able to get us out of stagflation. What you really need is you need to fix the low economic growth parts, which means that you need investment from businesses to be able to stimulate that, create more jobs, increase demand, which should then in turn grow the economy and help us out of the situation. I understand the need for a windfall tax, and I think ultimately the arguments being given around why they shouldn't be put in place is flimsy, to say the least. But at the same time, there's a lot more going on in the background. I'm going to do my best to try and explain this in a video tomorrow, when I talk a little bit about stagflation. But it will be interesting to hear what you guys actually think. You know, this comes back to, a little bit of greed, I guess. Yes, you're going to pay a lot of tax. How much tax are you going to get back? 49.4 million isn't really going to do much. I mean, we need to raise billions if we're really going to help households. So how do you best go about doing that is the question. Beyond the 8 billion that they're going to pay this year, or the 7.8 billion to be more accurate, according to that article, that they're going to pay this year. Is it going to be enough? What happens if they introduce this windfall tax? Will the company simply just pass that on to consumers so they recuperate that cost anyway? These are all questions that I guess are all unanswered at this point in time. And it's anyone's guess what's going to happen. It's going to be really, really interesting. But I think when you look at the headline numbers and you think about the profits they're making, it's indefensible to say, there should not be a windfall tax. It just is, just on the plain numbers. But it's interesting to hear what you guys actually think. I do have something, just in case you are struggling with the cost of living crisis. I do want to share this message with you from Wealthify, who are my sponsors. So I'm just going to play this if I can actually find it. Where is it? And if you do enter, by the way, this closes on the 1st of June. So in about 7 days' time, 7 to 8 days' time.
In with good news. It's just to let you know that you were the lucky winner of our £20,000 prize draw.
Oh my goodness me! Oh my goodness, that's incredible! Oh my word! Oh my goodness! Oh, I'm blown away. That is incredible. I've never won anything before.
So, could you be the winner of this year's prize draw? Wealthify are running that same competition this year, giving away £20,000. I've said it before, I say it again, it's your whole tax year allowance for this year. Now, what you need to do to enter is make sure that you have a funded Wealthify account by the 1st of June 2022. And whatever you do, please don't forget to click the submit entry button. Please don't forget. Now, there are terms and conditions with this. Unfortunately, if you're in Northern Ireland, this does exclude you, but if you do enter, I've got my fingers crossed for you. If you win, you can buy me a coffee, you can buy me a beer, whichever. But remember, when investing, your capital is at risk, and Wealthify are authorised and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority. Good luck.
All right, there, guys. So listen, if you do enter into that competition, by the way, if you do win the 20 grand, you don't have to keep it invested. You can do whatever you want with it. If you want to go and use it for a holiday or to invest it elsewhere, or you just want to use it to pay down debt, maybe, I don't know, use it for a house deposit, you're completely free to do that. But it is available for you to use if you do enter. Fingers crossed if you do. There are only about 7 days roughly left. So I will be mentioning a little bit more on the channel. I would love for someone who actually watches the channel to watch this, to win it, I mean, but we'll see what happens. But good luck if you do enter. But anyway, I thought I'd make this a very, very brief live, just to talk about this. Again, it's really, really interesting tracking what's going on right now. And yeah, God knows what's going to happen. I hope that they actually come to the right decision and do the right thing. But what is right for one person and right in one person's eyes is wrong in the other person's eyes. And I guess it's almost like a catch-22. One thing we do know for sure is Rishi and Boris and the rest of the guys need to make a decision around what they're going to do, because people need help at the end of the day. There's only so much you can sort of budget and cut before you get to the point where there's nothing else you can do. And that's where you have people going on TV talking about, well, people should just go and get different jobs. Well, yeah, obviously, Sherlock, people know that they probably need to go and get more jobs. You stating the obvious doesn't actually make that any better. But being in government, you have power to actually make changes that may actually make sense and make a difference to people. But they're dithering at this point in time. For some reasons, I completely understand. For others, I don't. What we kind of need, I guess, is kind of, decisive leadership, a decisive piece of action that will actually make a difference to people who are actively struggling right now. My biggest fear around all of this is that people would just go further into debt as they struggle to make ends meet. People are already choosing between heating the house and buying food. It's absolutely crazy. And to think we're one of the wealthiest countries on the planet struggling to this degree, to be honest, is a bit of a disgrace. So do the corporates pay in taxes, they might not like it, but hey, listen, that's the way the dice is rolled, and that's how the lie lands. So you got to suck it up, Buttercup. Sorry, but you do, and that's just one of those things. I mean, people can start talking about the consequences that might have to investors, for example. So if you levy a windfall tax on someone like BP, for example, where they're paying dividends, are they going to reduce their dividends? Are they going to withhold their dividends? Well, look, we can cross that bridge when we get to it. And to be completely honest, if you have holdings or investments with BP, look, this may sound a little, I wouldn't say elitist because I'm not elitist in any way, but if you have significant holdings with BP and you're getting a really nice dividend, you're probably not struggling from the cost of living crisis. So if they cut their dividends or reduce their dividends over a period of time, well, again, just suck it up, Buttercup. People need help now. And this is one of the things that I guess is actually going to help them if Rishi and the government have the courage to levy this tax. That's going to be the big question. What do you think should happen? Let me know down below. Do you think actually don't tax them, they pay enough tax, or do you think actually no, they should be taxed and that money should go to people who actually need it? Let me know, but I appreciate you as ever for joining into this live. It's quite impromptu on this Monday evening, but we'll have a video out tomorrow evening as well. Look forward to catching you then. I will have another behind the scenes video out this week for Secret Spenders. This week is the last week on Thursday. The show concludes this week. So it's been a great time. It's been really, really good doing Lorraine and doing some other TV work as well. So we'll see how that goes. But guys, appreciate you. Have a good evening, whatever it is that you are doing. Catch you later on. And if you are a City supporter, I said it on the podcast this morning, congratulations. I'm a United fan, so that pains me to say, but I feel a little bit more confident saying congratulations to a City fan than I would have done if you were a Liverpool fan. I think the rivalry is a little bit stronger on the Liverpool side. But I mean, to be honest, look, Pep is an absolute genius. You've won the title without an out-and-out striker, which for me is just incredible. And it is testament to Pep and the team that you've got there, and whatever juice or magic you've got going on. We certainly need some over in Old Trafford because, Jesus, it was rough yesterday watching them play. And yeah, I think all in all, it turned out the best way that it possibly could have, with City winning and us just about scraping Europa League qualification thanks to Brighton. But yeah, congratulations to the City guys. And it'll be interesting watching Erling Haaland play for you guys next season, because I think that's going to elevate you. As much as I don't like it, I can appreciate good football. But have a good evening. Catch you in a bit.